Here's an experiment for you. Take passionate experts in human resource technology. Invite cross-industry experts from inside and outside HR. Mix in what's happening in people analytics today. Give them the technology to connect. Hit record. Pour their discussions into a beaker. Mix thoroughly, and voila! You get the HR Data Labs podcast, where we explore the impact of data and analytics to your business. We may get passionate and even irreverent, but count on each episode challenging and enhancing your understanding of the way people data can be used to solve real-world problems. Now, here's your host, David Turetsky.
Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast. I'm your host, David Turetsky. Like always, we try and find the most fascinating and fun people to talk to you about HR technology, HR data, and analytics. Today, I have with me, as always, Dwight Brown from Turetsky Consulting and now Salary.com. Hey, Dwight.
Hey, David. How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Good.
And we have my friend Mark Hanson from Emsi Burning Glass.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Time. Burning Glass.
Emsi Burning Glass. We're two companies put together. So yeah, we're merged now. Coming
together as one big family.
That's right.
Just like Turetsky Consulting and Salary.com.
I know. It's perfect. Perfect time for the mergers. This is great.
Crazy?
Like merger twins.
So, Mark, why don't you tell people a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So, yeah, really interesting story. I've been with Emsi about 2 years. I help on their product side. I do a lot with our skills work and how do we integrate into other HR tech platforms? How do we help companies understand skills and identify skills within their HR systems and within their people and help analyze all of that. I was actually an Emsi customer for 5 years at UnitedHealth Group. So I was on their people analytics team for 5 years. And so got to use all this really cool external labor data that we have at Emsi Burning Glass and applied to internal data meshing and try to pull the internal and external views together to get a holistic view of labor and talent within a huge organization like United. Right. And then I heard what I was working on with their, open sourcing their skills library and all the skills products that they wanted to build. And it was too intriguing, jumped over to their side. And it's been a fun ride ever since to help navigate this really fun world of skills and how do we put really good labor data in front of talent leaders to help them make better decisions. And so been a fun ride. And previously was in management consulting and leadership consulting roles. And so it's been a really great spot to be, especially with the huge growth of people analytics and all the HR tech that's just booming right now. It's been a fun area to be in.
So, Mark, we ask every podcast guest one thing that no one knows about them. Remember, this is being live streamed. It's being recorded live stream, so we can't edit this out like we usually do. What is one thing that no one knows about you?
Interesting. Well, one fun fact, I have one kidney, and I was born with that, and I was a twin, and my mom lost one of the twins, and so they think that I had some sort of meshed one kidney. So it's been a fun ride to tell people probably some sort of HIPAA violation, medical fun fact, but
well, it's not HIPAA if you volunteer.
That's right, if you volunteered. Yep. So I got one kidney, and so it's always been I should have never played football in high school and all that stuff. But no, that's one interesting fun fact.
You look healthy.
We're all
that's
good.
Cool. So today, the topic that we're going to talk about is all about skills and taxonomies and how the equation really changes for organizations when they have taxonomies, good taxonomies that are at their disposal.
Yeah.
So my first question for you is, what we're trying to do here at the conference is talk about past, present, and future.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the past when it comes to taxonomies and we're talking specifically about skills.
Yeah.
What was the past? What used to happen? Where did this all come from?
Before we move on, I need to let you know about my friend Mark Pfeffer and his show, People Tech. If you're looking for the latest on product development, marketing, funding, big deals happening in talent acquisition, HR, HCM, that's the show you need to listen to. Go to the Work Defined Network, search up People Tech, Mark Pfeffer. You can find him anywhere.
Well, it's really interesting. Skills is not a new thing. It's skills has been around forever. I mean, the reason why we have curriculum and learning is, to teach skills. I think it's the power of skills and where those skills are connected is really what's been changing. And the importance of skills has just grown exponentially, as that is a key driver of trying to understand your business. And years ago, businesses were pretty simple. You have, a finance department, an HR department, and, you got your sales team, and, you have these basic roles. Everyone kind of knew definitionally what is a role within a company. Well, now with the explosion of technology, in the last 50 years and all of the unique variations of innovation and just rapid pace of change, roles are completely different now. Right. And so technology's disrupted all of this. You can't just be an accountant anymore and tick and tie with T accounts and a piece of paper. Sure. You have to learn the entire accounting system, how that connects into the ERP, how it connects to, all of your tax systems and, salary systems. It's fully integrated. So it's totally changed the work and the roles have completely changed as technology's changed. And so skills has evolved to be much more critical, more so than it used to be.
What's really funny about it is sometimes it actually comes back to, like you're bringing up the role. Sometimes it goes back to the job table.
Yes.
And we look at the job table, and typically most clients have a very simple job table.
Yeah.
The job table typically has a job code, has a job title, has FLSA. It has other things from a compliance perspective. But beyond that, companies tend to not dive into a lot of the other specifics. Job description on the job table, almost never filled in. And then you get to where do all these other things live, like the skills taxonomies. Yep. And for most HCMs, there is no concept of the skills taxonomy inside the job table. So in the past, where did this stuff live?
Yeah. I think it lived passively on learning content, but it wasn't categorized as skills. It was categorized as you should learn about this thing. And sometimes it was skill specific, like you should learn about SQL, or you should learn, and so SQL is a skill, but then there's about 80 other variations of sub-skills underneath that. Now it's like, well, no, you need to know MySQL because that's, more portable than old traditional SQL, or you need to know Python, or, what are these coding languages? And so it's getting much more hyper-specific of where technology is guiding people. So no longer can we get away with like topic learning. You have to get really hyper-specific of what subtopics do you need to learn, and underneath that, what specific skills are important around those topics. And as the people are looking at their roles and they see all these job titles, you can't translate what a job title is anymore. If you see the job title of project manager, you have no clue. Are they in finance? Are they in operations? Are they in tech? Right. You need more specifics. And so if you do have a job description, which some companies do, most don't, it's usually very vague of what that is. And so it gives you some clarity, but you need more than that. And so where the trend is going is companies building skill profiles to help bring some of that vagueness of a job title, especially in those areas of business analyst, project manager, product manager, all of those things. How do we bring some specificity and some granularity to understand that in the context? And it brings in a lot. And so obviously companies always have job family, job function usually on that job title, which
always?
Oh, not always, but yeah, most of the times. It brings some clarity there. And if you know the business unit they're in or the division they're in, that always helps too. But it's still, as you're looking across your company, I remember we had a project at UnitedHealth Group, and one of the chief operating officers is like, we have 12,000 business analysts. Like, what do they do? They're in all parts of different divisions.
Is it a systems business analyst?
Yes.
Finance business analyst? Right.
And it covered across the whole company. Right. And he's like, how are we, and it's because the job title, it didn't keep up. They said, well, it's close enough to a business analyst, let's just give them that job code.
Right.
And so you can either swing both ways on the pendulum. You can either say, okay, everyone needs a unique job code. Well, then that gets out of whack really quickly, because now you have hyper-specific job titles, and really you have lots of people doing similar roles that probably should have the same job title. Or you go the opposite of some of these big companies and you have 12,000 people with the same job title, and then that creates problems as well for lack of insights.
Or you have 12,000 titles. Mm-hmm. Nobody maintains them.
Yep.
You have 1,000 employees with 12,000 job titles.
Yep.
And then either you merge or get acquired, and then there's now 100,000 more.
Yeah.
And what I think what we've been, and again, we're talking about the past here. Mm-hmm. In the past, a lot of the systems focused on the tool's original purpose.
Yep.
Payroll, HR, benefits, comp, if it had comp.
Yep.
And those things were all artifacts.
Yep.
They weren't facts. They were artifacts. And artifacts, by their very nature, just come along for the ride. And one of the worst parts about history around these skills and around these taxonomies you're talking about is that they became so bloated and horrible that no one wanted to touch them. And and so we're talking about the past. The past is that because we had to maintain history, they would get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it would fall on its own weight, but we still pulled it along. The question now becomes, in the current, I'm not talking about the future, I'm not talking about tomorrow, I'm talking about today. Have you seen companies today that are looking at their skill taxonomies, their job taxonomies, the things that bring these things together? And how are they working on them to make them a more modern structure today?
Yeah, absolutely. So skills in the last, I'd say, 2 years has just blown up. It's been the new focus of every company saying we need to grasp our arms around this very vague topic. Everyone's talking about we need to develop new skills. We need to look at internal mobility and internal hiring, and how do we build our marketplace? How do we know which skills to develop? What are the skills coming down? They're emerging and that are coming down the pipeline. And so people are going at skills many different ways, whether it's learning, whether it's talent acquisition, whether it's some of their core HR systems, trying to organize those taxonomies. And as you go out and try to tackle a skills problem, there's so many wonderful point solutions out there, from a talent marketplace, talent management systems, employee engagement systems, all these talent acquisition systems that are using AI to, screen and match,
I'm sorry, are you saying that's a good thing?
It's a good thing. The point solutions are a good thing because they're solving
No, I meant the talent acquisition. Sorry, Sorry.
No, it's a good thing that these solutions are going after key pain points within companies.
Sure.
What we're finding is they're all using different skill libraries. They're all using different skill taxonomies. So now you want centralized insights either on your employees or, your job taxonomy, your job architecture internally. And there's not a good way to mesh those together. And so we're getting tons of phone calls saying, hey, you guys have a skill solution. How do we piece this together? Because, rightly so, the teams that were involved in learning, involved in, internal recruiting, they're finding the best point solutions. They're doing what they're supposed to, but as you bring that back,
silos.
Yeah, they're all siloed. They're not integrated. And so Josh Burson talked about it this morning in his keynote speech of, the future is integration. How do we get all of these systems? Because not one large system can do this end-to-end employee experience with all of the insights and data that you need.
Right.
You still have a need for some of these point solutions, but how do they integrate seamlessly so that you can direct those insights in a collective and comprehensive manner? That's really the big pain point of what we're seeing. So companies are pushing towards the right area, but they're not there yet. And there's a lot of noise in the market for how do we organize this and how do we go forward?
You called it, I think Josh called it talent intelligence.
Yes.
Which is, to me, and what our thinking is, talent intelligence is the intersection of all the pieces and taxonomies coming together in a crosswalk way to be able to tell a story around people and the organization. And I think, Josh has it, you guys talk about it a little bit, but to me, talent intelligence and the way in which all this data comes together could be the secret sauce for the industry.
Yeah.
If we adopt an open stance like Emsi has already, which is allow the crosstalk so that the silos can come together and be able to stop the single databases that get managed separately, that don't share, aren't democratic about it. Sorry to all of those organizations that aren't open yet, but we're advocating for, we're coming together and allowing our clients to be more open. We were just talking to Jason Averbuck about the ability for an organization to work more together by thinking about the employee experience about it. And what we think is that these are insights not just for the organization, but for the employee as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's Josh touched on his keynote this morning too, around, the importance of employee. If you're creating the right environment and culture and solutions for employees, you're going to win with your HR tech. And we are totally on the open standards, bandwagon, just because we know that it's good for not only HR, but just business in general and job seekers and education in general. Not many people know this because we spend a lot of time, speaking with our, corporate and enterprise customers. But, Emsi has, traditionally been in higher education, and we have thousands of customers all the way from tiny community colleges up to large universities. And we work with local, state, federal governments all over the world. And now with Burning Glass merging with us, they were working in those same pockets as well. And the reason why an open skills standard is so important is it is a common language that can break down. It's the building blocks of learning. It's the building blocks of jobs, and it's helping local economies understand where do we come at. So as we look at how does this all fit into HR tech systems, and how do we break down some of these silos, a lot of these big HCMs, HRS systems are very internally focused. It's you have just the data that is captured by your employees, and you don't have that external view. Well, as the labor market is shrinking, and yes, you can go after recruiting people internally in creating an internal mobility strategy, but you're going to run out of recruiting your own people soon. You have to go outside at some point. And so as we see this holistic view of where skills can play in, you need to understand the skills inside your org, not only for your people and the skills that they have, but also the skills that are needed to actually do your job. So there's a job architecture standpoint. Absolutely. And then you need to know the skills of the marketplace. Yep. What are your competitors doing? Where is your industry going?
How are you benchmarking?
How are you benchmarking that? And then when you do need to go external, when do you build? When do you borrow? When do you buy?
Yeah, right.
And that's the classic one, and skills helps break down that in a very nice way.
One of the fascinating things about this, though, is that without having a career framework, without giving employees an understanding about they're here now to get there, what do I need to do? You have that with a skills taxonomy. You have that with understanding so few companies that we've talked to have a career framework in place. There are some pockets. There are some that naturally have that, whether it's in accounting with level 1 and 2 and 3, with programming, with customer support, with sales leadership or sales and their structures. But in a lot of the other organizations, especially manufacturing, where it's mostly blue collar, how do I get beyond my level where I am now? How do I get to somewhere else if I want to? Or how do I even know what I'm supposed to be focusing on? Yes, manufacturing SOP, standard operating procedures. But how do people know, what am I supposed to be doing? What skills am I supposed to have? How do I close the gaps if they exist? And if I want to go here or there, what's necessary of me to get there? And are there learning tracks for me to get there? To me, that's a career framework. How do we help organizations create that framework with all these skills that we have available to us?
Yeah, and we always talk about this as we talk to our customers. There's two ways that you can approach skills. You can go after understanding the skills of your employees, which is very good, and it's good data to have. It's also very hard data to get. It's always a moving target, and you never get 100% of your employees to participate in skill surveys or skill inventories. And when you do get it, it's a very messy data set. You get their entire career history. So if you're looking at more white collar, you could have people that have 4 or 5 different career tracks. Blue collar, maybe not so much. You might have more of a track, but even then people bounce different jobs, and you just get a whole big data set that is kind of messy.
Can we call it a potpourri?
Potpourri, yes. Yeah. Yeah,
it smells good.
Exactly.
Doesn't really fit together.
It's a hodgepodge. And so we've been advocates of saying that's all well and good. You will need that at some point. But really where companies need to start is going after the skills in their roles, in their job architecture. What are the skills that you've actually asked for? And it's in there. It's in the job posting that they posted. It's in the job descriptions if they have them. It's in some of those job frameworks that they may have paid a consulting firm to come in and do all their levels and comp ranges and bring in all the knowledge, skills, and ability language in there. And so some of them do, but mostly it's just the big companies that can afford that. So we say it's pretty easy in certain ways to be able to at least capture some of that skills data as you look. How do we tap into the skills being talked about in the labor market? How do we use job title normalization and big data to pull through some of these insights? And the reason we say that's a great starting point is that's the baseline of what you need. And if you can build a skill profile for every single job in your job architecture, that gives a preview to all of the employees to have a simple look to say, hey, I'm a manufacturing, I'm on the line and, I'm doing something. Well, I want to get somewhere. How do I become a line manager? How do I, and if you have a skill preview of what skills are needed for those adjacent roles that they might be in, now they actually say, oh, these are the skills I need to pick up. Maybe it's some soft skills like leadership skills. Maybe it's, different technical skills for a different part of the line that they can move up in their career. So having that starting standpoint of a job profile and having that skill profile be attached to that gives exposure to that.
And that's where the problem is. Where in employee self-service do they find that?
Yep.
Unless they go to job postings. And the answer is, once they've gone to job postings and they go, let's see what's inside. What's the next logical step? Nothing fits me.
Yep.
Let me go outside and work.
Exactly.
And so what I'm advocating, and I'm not taking this, and this is thought leadership here, is that there needs to be an employee self-service solution which says, here's what's in the company. Here's how the company is made up. It's a career framework application that I don't even know if I've ever really seen, which basically says, here's what mobility could look like. To your point, here's what my job is today. And we talked to someone yesterday which said, and I think it was this morning, we talked about it, where there were analytics that were given that say, and here are all the jobs you're qualified for. But it was looking at all the other people who've been promoted from that job. And I said, but that's based on a probable history that may have given opportunities to only one type of people.
Sure.
Getting into the DE, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. What I'm advocating for is the other way, using the skill frameworks, the job taxonomies to create career frameworks where people can navigate the organization and say, today I'm a data governance consultant. Tomorrow I want to be a people analytics consultant. What skills do I need to learn? What technologies, what techniques do I need to learn to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. And at its basic level, some companies make it overcomplicated. I think a system would be wonderful, but even just exposing it through your HRS system, if you're storing a skill profile for all of your job codes, make it exposed within your platforms that the employees are already using and logging into to say, yeah, go explore some roles. And so you can certainly make it more robust with skill matching and adjacencies of different roles and how everything relates. And then you're looking at sequential historical pathways. It's like, here's one idea that's happened for others. It might spur on some ideas, but to your point, it's not ideal for everyone because, as we all know, your career path, winds and weaves. It's not a linear path that you go on. Some people are stuck in saying, where can I go? And that sequential pathway data does help jog some things like, oh, did you know that, I was started on the, manufacturing line and this person now is the COO? Okay, well, that's one.
Right.
One, but what was their steps in between? Okay, that might jog some of my things of, where did they pick up skills within the company and how could I replicate at least portions of that? And so those stories, those success stories are really important for storytelling in the org to say, yes, you can create a career here. Help us at least give you the baseline data to unlock some of those. And then all of the DEIB strategies can come into play to help, preview jobs better, help, create those success stories through, even just connecting through mentorship. It's like, hey, you want this role? Okay, let's grab some people that had developed those skills or they're in that role. Like, let's bring, proper previews to this so that we can get you engaged. And then as you mature your talent marketplace, as you mature your talent management, succession planning, leadership development programs, it all starts to connect. And we see skills as being that starting point. It's not the end all be all, but it's a great data point that most companies don't have a grasp of. And it can unlock so many different wonderful initiatives, wonderful technologies to bring insights to those employees, as well as to all of the senior leadership that's running the company.
Right. To give them a preview of what's available, what not just rising stars, but what talent's available, who have what skills, and who have maybe some interest in other things.
Yeah. One of the things that this makes me think about, I was previously in a large organization and we had thousands of job descriptions and we went through the process of really filtering that down. And when it came to the talent side of things and the skills side of things, you kind of had two philosophies. Either get everything in the kitchen sink in there or you make it bare minimum. And one of the cultural aspects, and I've seen this in other organizations, is that sometimes organizations don't want to document those skills because there can be that feeling that, okay, if I'm going to require this skill of this person, it's going to put them into a different pay grade. And so, I would imagine a lot of what you do and things is helping organizations understand how do you do this documentation and how do you give people those career paths without impacting the pay side of things, because that's where we really had a push and pull between what do we put down, what do we ask, and then we couldn't even get to the point where we could put it into a system because we were stuck in that no man's land of philosophy more than anything.
Yeah, I think the answer is that you have to do what's right for the company.
Right.
Not be, and I've dealt with managers who have tried to, I'm not saying any of you did anything wrong. I love you all very much. But, there have been some times when it's been, think about it from the company perspective.
Right.
And I would say I am. And when I do this, it's for everybody. But taking the employee thought process and taking the employee perspective and saying, this is really what you need. And if it needs that, then that needs to be in the higher grade. And not worry about cost.
Right.
Because if the company's worried about cost of onesie, twosie employees, there's a bigger problem there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think that's where, comp and benefits needs to evolve is down to the skill level. I mean, there's certain skills that are naturally more valuable than others. And if you can, the more you can expose that knowledge to employees and the more that you can see how that's valuable to your roles, that's where, no longer do we need to pay people based on this, arbitrary job title that was picked 10 years ago and put into our system and a pay scale was picked. You're not doing just a job anymore. I mean, there's so much more that, employees are bringing to the table. They're bringing their past experiences. They're bringing, their knowledge, skills, and abilities and strengths, putting into this role. And everybody creates differentiated value in certain ways. And then naturally more skills become more important for the company. We love talking about Python developers because that's just like a skill that's been blowing up. It's like, where did Python come from? Like, what does this even mean? Well, now Python's used in so many different applications, even beyond just data scientists. And it's, becoming this core, language that people need to know. Well, you should know if you have employees that have dabbled in Python. I guarantee that most of your data analysts and data science folks are either fully in it or are dabbling in it if you're not using it. Well, when you have turnover and you see that you lost, 20% of your data analysts last year, you have no idea that maybe 10 of your best Python experts are out there. Now the, leadership saying, oh, we got to have better Python developer because that's the new thing that we need to, it's more powerful than all the other historical systems. Well, you don't know how to track that. So the better knowledge you have of your skills, now we can get down to that granular level to say, pay might have to be different because someone has, this key skill that we have and it's a, emerging skill and it's a critical skill for where the future of this company is going. So it helps identify where do we move people into some of those, for promotion. I'd say companies don't need to get too hung up on how many skills to have in a profile or, is it going to impact comp or not? The point is, how do we properly identify the skills needed to do a role. And that could be 5 skills for certain roles. It could be 60 skills for your really highly technical roles. And as long as it's describing what the work is, those skills are directly or partially indirectly already in the job posting that you posted for that. And so it's in there, but nobody's categorized it and classified it down into a, cohesive skill profile for that role. So let's focus on getting the knowledge in there first. And then we can streamline it to say, yeah, we might need to dial this back a little bit because it's maybe not a realistic preview. The more important part is how do we keep it updating it based on market trends, based on company changes, strategic changes, so that it can be a living, breathing, artifact, but it's really just an important metadata factor on your job architecture layer. That we need to keep and maintain because nobody's really going out to read our paragraph job descriptions, and that's just a bear to update. There's no way to compare your job paragraphs. There's no way to analyze that. But with a skills layer, especially if you have a comprehensive, common language that's associated around that, you can measure gaps, you can measure overlaps.
Absolutely. The one thing I was going to mention that you just brought it up, it's measurability. To me, there's 2 other big pieces: transparency and opportunity. If you don't publish, like your point before, if you don't publish what it is that's required for jobs and you're transparent about it, then you're going to get the wrong people. But you also, to your point, you're missing those diamonds in the rough that could be in your organization that have the skills. You already have them. Acquisition costs are low. Now, you need to train your managers to open it up and allow for people to transfer and to take laterals and to, take career development opportunities.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by Turetsky Consulting and listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
To me, this gets to our next point, which is the future of taxonomies and skills. And part of it I want to seed the conversation with is that AI has been talked about a million times already at the HR Technology Conference 2021. One of the things that I would love to see AI do is stop looking for the new thing and look at the old stuff. Let's use AI and train AI on these opportunities to find those diamonds. To me, the future is starting with a layer of understanding. Go find the data issues. We talked about before. Go train AI to find the data issues, but then also find those diamonds. Find those people that we don't know about that exist. To me, that's just one thing, Mark. What's the future of skills and taxonomies?
Yeah.
I mean, and you can obviously talk about it.
Well, yeah, the future is, I mean, a lot of it involves AI and a lot of it just involves interconnectivity. How do we integrate all of these different systems to bring holistic insights into our talent? And it needs to be looking at the entire employee life cycle of when they come into our org, how do they move throughout our org? When they leave our org, how do we understand everything about them so that we can just get better? And how do we use that for our workforce planning? And as our economy shifts, as our company shifts with strategy, how do we morph and plan for that development of our employees, the attraction of outside talent into our org? How do we look at early career planning? And skills is such a strong component of that. And right now, skills are a hard thing to grasp, and because they're words, and so unless you have context around those words, you really don't know how they relate, where they're useful. You have very functional skills, like you can see a skill that says software engineering. Is that useful? Well, for certain learning contexts, yeah, it's very useful. Is it useful to a software engineer? Absolutely not. You need to break that down much more detailed. So I think the future is really not only the integration of where all these systems are going to be put together and how the AI can tie this all together to make the best, suggestions for employees, the best learning for employees, the best strategic movements that you need to make. But it's also looking at the taxonomy itself to say, what are all the related terms and the common ways that things are talked about, whether it's in a functional sense or it's in a very detailed sense, and what are the inferences that need to be made so that all of our suggestions can get more powerful. And so if you think about the build, buy, borrow sort of strategy, it's saying, okay, which employees do you need to engage now to get them ready for their next promotion or their next opportunity within the company, and where do we meet them at in that workflow of their daily life of working for our company?
Right.
Where do we suggest learning? Where do we suggest a talent mobility move? And then what is the optimal way for that person to learn that? Is it sitting in a classroom? Is it a mentorship? Is it on the job learning? Is it micro learning? What are those? And so I think that's the future, is getting really dialed in and precise of meeting the employee. What are their interests? What is their learning style? What is their preference? What is their normal work life? And the more hyper-focused that gets, and you meet that employee where that need is most felt and most attractive for them to engage with it. Josh Burson, again, talked about this morning, is like, you can't just buy a solution and push it on employees. If they're not using it, you've just wasted your money on the point solution in your spot. So the future is, where can we meet these employees in that life cycle of their journey? When do they like to learn? How do they like to learn? And then what's going to be attractive to them? And the more we can, integrate engagement surveys and pulse surveys and your behaviors and your personal preferences, if we can wind that into, cohesive, integrated systems that can meet the employees, then the skills it's going to blow up in terms of where employees learn, where do they go for work, where do they search for certain jobs, and it'll be tailored to them more specifically, and they won't have to fight hard to go find it.
What strikes me when you're talking about this is learning shouldn't start when the employee raises their hand. To me, and I've been around the work world, and I'm sure both of you have too, because we may be the same age, I'm probably older, but shouldn't it start when you're a candidate? Or even when you learn about a company, shouldn't it start with, here's what you need to know about the company, and then as you get closer to the company, that learning changes to be, here's what you need to know about being an employee. And I'm not just talking about the culture and learning about culture, or watching a video about the CEO talking about how cool it is to work there, and he or she says, here's why our value proposition, blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about that. Having learning about the products, having learning about your group, having learning about the industry, so that even if you're a veteran of it, what's our take on it? Who are we? What are we doing? And here's what you need to know to do your job so effectively that on day one, say day 5, you didn't get a computer right away. Maybe you're using your iPhone to onboard. That onboarding process then becomes a learning process. Yeah. So you're not spending the next few months trying to figure out where the bathroom is.
Yep.
Oh, actually, I take that back. When we had offices, we usually were told, here's where the bathroom is. And that was probably the most important information you got when you were hired. I mean, we were just onboarded and we had a really good onboarding experience. But I mean, there are things that we don't know, like how to record our time. And I think that's one of those things where if a company's foundation is process and data, teach people who come on board right away.
Right.
So we are talking about the future here. And we're talking about ways to make the employee experience better. And to your point, all of these systems suck if we're not thinking about the employee experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I loved some of the discussion that's already happened at HR Tech here around, just that the content creation. And it's getting down to, having managers jump on and give you, training around what is the realistic preview of what this job is. Where are, logistically, where are things? What folders? What's,
exactly.
If you're in the office, where do I go for certain things? Right. And the more that we can break that content down, it doesn't need to be, these technical skills that I need to learn, to help me in my career. It's just basic knowledge, and how do we get that knowledge dispersed? Because I remember when I got onboarded at UnitedHealth, huge 350,000 person company. My manager sat with me for 5 days straight and kind of showed me where everything is. Well, that's not efficient. That's not scalable. That's
right. And in the world of remote, doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But at least we know where the bathroom is when the world of remote.
That's right.
We would hope. Right. We would hope. So we talked about the past, present, and future of skills, Mark. What else can we tell our audience before we close? What other things on your mind about the skill taxonomy and skill taxonomies and where they're going?
Yeah. I just love that it's top of mind for companies. I think it's a discussion that needs to be had, and the more people that are thinking about it, the more, problems can be, risen to the top of how do we solve for these really cool problems. And, there's the way that HR Tech is going, everybody is grasping on. And I know that through, different collaborations and different partnerships, we're going to be able to unlock a ton of value that's going to completely benefit the employee, but also drive better insights for companies. And how do we just get better at retaining employees and really lifting up the employee and actually, helping them thrive within companies. Yep. So that conversation alone, I think, it's a great spot to be in, because now the employee that, 20 years ago, companies said assets are employees. Well, did you actually feel that? No, you felt like a cog in a wheel. Now it's like, no, the labor market's so tight, the employee actually does have value, it does have power, and they do have a say in what's happening. And the more that we can use skills to help employees learn where they want to learn, and get previews of what are the jobs that could be going towards, and how can they get excited about different components. Skills can unlock a lot of value as it attaches to other wonderful HR Tech processes. So that's what excites me, is that the conversation's happening, and as we evolve this, the tech surrounding it's only going to get better, the solution's going to get better, and the employee is going to win big time through this, and help drive what is the value of work, and how can we work hard and be satisfied in those roles and be engaged in our job, that we're helping these companies solve big problems. And I think everyone's hopefully going to be happier through this and enjoy it more.
It'll relax a lot what about where can I go? Yeah. Do I have to look elsewhere? I don't want to look elsewhere. I like this company. I like the people. I love the people I work with. What is in it for me? And too often it's been an us versus them from the organization to the employee, and it's got to be an us and them now. We are them. They are us.
Yeah. Yep.
That sounded very much like a Battlestar Galactica kind of thing. Mark, it's always a pleasure.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Yeah, this is wonderful.
Dwight,
thanks for being here, Mark. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we finally see some faces and get to a conference.
It's nice to meet people in person.
It's a novel idea, but it's fun.
Yeah, it is. But we invite you to come back to the HR Data Labs podcast another time.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it will have to be remote, unless there were good reasons why we can be in the same zip code, but hopefully that'll happen again soon.
Yeah, and congrats on the merger with Salary.com. This is really wonderful, exciting news that we heard this week.
And we're very excited about that too. And thank you very much for joining. And we really appreciate you listening to the HR Data Labs podcast, whether you were on the live stream or on the recording afterwards. Thank you very much. And hopefully you'll listen to the other podcasts. And if you know somebody who might be interested in it, please send it their way. Thank you very much. Take care, and please stay safe.
That was HR Data Labs. Please visit turetskyconsulting.com/podcast to review the show, add comments about this episode, or add new ideas about upcoming shows you'd like to hear. Feel free to be creative, but please be nice. Thank you for joining us this week on the HR Data Labs podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode. Stay safe.